Kirstin, thank you for joining the Set GK show today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so as we discussed before, you're over on the West Coast, meaning Vancouver, not America. But anyway, so give us your current situation. So you're home from Vancouver, but where are you currently playing? What's going on with you in your life right now?
So I'm currently on my summer break from university, and I'm playing in League One BC for the TSS Rovers. I've only been back for about 2 weeks, and the season kicked off. I think we're going into week 6 right now. So I missed the first couple weeks, which was a bit of a bummer, but back in, teams get looking good now that most of our NCAA players are back, and we're playing Rivers FC this weekend. So super pumped about that.
Is that a rivalry game? You got to kind of update
for
us.
Sure. So Rivers is a team based in the Okanagan. So that's more interior BC. So they're one of the teams that has to travel every weekend. So we're playing the game a little bit later tomorrow. So that way they can get down from Kamloops where they're based. And yeah, I can't remember.
Kirstin, you're throwing out names that they sound made up to me, to be honest.
I guess fair enough. But how can I explain this best? I'm trying to remember the name of supporters.
They're coming from one area to another to play.
They have to drive like 5 hours to come play us, whereas most of the other teams are within a hour drive.
Which is unusual because Canada is a massive country.
Yeah.
So I feel like everywhere would be a 5-hour drive to get to.
Yeah, that's the nice part about the League One system they've developed here. League One BC is just based in BC. So I think there's 8 teams now, and there's 2 located on Vancouver Island, which is just off the coast of Vancouver. 5 teams in the Lower Mainland. So that's all in and around Vancouver. So my team is based in Burnaby, which is 25-30 minutes outside of the city. So we're pretty close. And then this team that we're playing this weekend, Rivers FC, is based in Kamloops, the Okanagan, which is the 5-hour drive, whatever it is. So they have to do that every weekend, whereas teams like myself, like my team, we don't have to travel nearly as much.
Gotcha. Well, nonetheless, thanks for giving us a geography.
There you go.
Canada and Vancouver.
That's just BC for you.
So is this level like a considered semi-pro because it's like a summer league type of thing?
Yeah, semi-pro. One of the other Set GK keepers, Aiden Bain, participated in the league last year. He played for Altitude, which is actually my local team.
So it's that league.
Yeah, that league. So Altitude's actually my local team here in North Van. I'm just playing for a team that's just a bit outside of where I live.
Why did you want to play for Altitude? What's up with that?
They're a great squad. Last year, when it was the inaugural season, I chose to play for TSS because I knew the coaching staff and the caliber of players they brought in last year was almost all NCAA, a couple U20 national team players, and that was really exciting to play in that group. And I think it was also really beneficial for my development last year, playing in that high performance environment. And I think it served me well in the last year of my development, I'd say.
Speaking of development, where else have you grown over the years? So you're currently playing at Queen's College.
Yeah, Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario.
Queen's University, in Ontario. So that's a whole different. That's not NCAA. That's a whole different. College system.
Yeah, Queen's is a member of.
How does that work?
So Queen's is a member of U Sports, which is essentially, I'll call it the Canadian equivalent of the NCAA.
Okay.
So there's member schools across the country, across 4 different conferences. So Queen's is a member of the OUA, which is the Ontario University Athletics Conference. Another one is Canada West, which is all the Western schools. There's also the RSAQ, which is, I don't know the exact breakdown of the spelling because it's French, but Quebec. And then there's the Atlantic University Sport Conference out east. So we're a member of one of the 4 conferences, and we compete against schools across Ontario.
Okay. Do you speak French?
No, not well enough to say I speak French.
So lame. All right. Okay. So what? And then is it like the same thing? Like you have your conference, you play your conference games, you play for a national championship type of thing. Is that all similar? And why did you have the options to play in the States, and why did you choose? If so, why did you choose to play in Ontario?
Yeah. So our national championship system is slightly different. The way our qualification works is you play a provincial tournament, and for the most part, it's top two from each conference makes it in. I think Quebec gets one because they're a smaller conference, and then the host is one of the seeds. So, anyways, the big thing for Queens this fall is we're hosting the national championship, so we have the automatic host bid. So we're super pumped to host that at Richardson Stadium, one of the nicest stadiums in the country, in my opinion. I might be biased, but it's awesome. So yeah, that was a big thing. They announced it actually right after I committed, so I didn't know beforehand that we would be hosting in my 4th year. So I found out afterwards, which was exciting, and I think we brought in a lot of recruits based off of the fact that we're hosting it.
Nice.
In terms of deciding whether or not to go to the US, I had some interest from a couple of different schools, a couple in Florida specifically, that I was interested in looking at. But for me, it was more, there's really high quality education in Canada, and I wanted to.
Are you trying to say we're not a high quality education?
No, I said there's high quality education in my country that I grew up in, but I wanted to stay close to home. And so right now, I mean, I am a 5-hour flight away from home when I'm at school, but it's one flight and I don't have to change a phone plan. Everything's really easy.
That's fair. So that's why you don't want to go. You just didn't want to change a phone plan.
That's the one reason why. No.
So it wasn't the education. It was just didn't want to change TV. I heard TV channels are a little bit different over here as well.
We watch all the same TV over here, pretty much, I'd say. Okay. But no, I think both are incredible options, and like looking back, I wouldn't say I regret the decision to stay in Canada, but I think there are different, like the way the tournament works in the States, I think can showcase your skills in a very different way than here. It's a much smaller, I'll say, fan base, I guess.
Sure.
But yeah.
Well, I mean, speaking of showcase, so obviously you showcased your abilities. Give us a story on how you ended up training with the Everton first team, because pre-show, this was a pretty cool story.
Yeah. Okay. So as I mentioned to you earlier when we were chatting, it all started with a LinkedIn message. So in November, when I was finishing up my semester at Queen's, I was procrastinating doing my assignments, and I got on LinkedIn and started looking up all the different coaches that coached at both Everton and Liverpool, two giant clubs in Liverpool. And
how'd you choose those clubs? Are they just your favorite?
The two WSL clubs in the city. So they're like the top level, highest you can go for women's football over there. Which I was like, I'm shooting for the stars here. We'll see if I even get a response back. So I wasn't even expecting to hear back from the coaches. But I happened to get responses from the goalkeeper coaches at both Everton and Liverpool, and I think a performance coach from Liverpool as well. So right off the bat, I was like, oh man, like, okay, this could actually work out. But
before you, where would this message even include? Like how, because obviously you did something to warrant a response. You didn't just say, hey, what's up? Like,
essentially,
what it say?
I wrote that I was like a Canadian goalkeeper, was 20 years old at the time, was aspiring to play professionally, but I would be overseas on exchange for the next couple months and was really interested in seeing if there's any training opportunities available. And from that, the coaches requested my CV and my highlight video, so I passed that along. And the answer initially from Liverpool was no, because they didn't have any openings at the time, which I was like, all good. Wasn't even expecting to hear back. And Everton was the same. But in early February, I followed up. I had just been in Liverpool for a couple of days. I was like, I need something to do. I'm like itching to play football. And I sent a message, and the coach responded to me saying, can you call me ASAP, and sent me his number. And so I call him first thing in the morning, and he's like, hey, so one of our goalkeepers got injured at the England camp. Would you be able to come into training on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday this week? Like, we'd love to have you out. And I was like, okay, I'll be there. And so I got into training, and those 3 days were surreal, to say the least. I was trying to be a sponge and soak all of it up, like everything they were teaching me, the environment. Like, it's hard to put into words what those 3 days were like, but that was what started me off. And I just went in and worked really hard, and they invited me back and kept asking me back subsequently after that. So I ended up being there for, I think, what month is it now? It's June. I was there until the beginning of May, mid-April type thing. So from February to April, I got incredible experience, and I actually got to warm up in the game against Spurs, and then travel and then warm up in the away game against Reading, which was unreal.
Yeah. So what in those first 3 days? So you even going in the first day?
Yeah.
How nervous were you going the first day? How nervous were you?
I didn't sleep the night before. I was like, it was one of those things where you're just like shaking. You're so excited, but also so nervous because it's like, this is my shot. I want to make good use of it. Like, I want to show them like why I'm here and why I'm good enough to be here. But yeah, no, I remember I was sitting in my dorm room. I downed a Red Bull and then got in the cab because their training facility was 30 minutes outside of the city. And I showed up and I'm sitting in the office, and the receptionist was the sweetest lady, and she was just chatting to me, all excited. Like, when people hear an accent over there, like not English, you stick out. So they were all interested. So I got there, they did my medical, and all the coaches were so nice. And they kept laughing about the fact I was Canadian because everyone guesses you're American first. The accent sounds relatively similar, but yeah. And then the first thing in with the team was breakfast. So I was sitting with all the girls, and it had happened to be the day that they were all back from international camp. So Jess Park comes in with her England jersey to trade with Aurora Galley for her Italy jersey. There's a bunch of Danish girls, so they were all talking about their experience. Courtney Brosnan, so the other goalkeeper who I got to work really closely with, and she was just back, and she was pumped because they had just announced that they were playing the US in the next international break. So there was lots going on that day, and it was definitely a system overload for me. But it was, I just was sitting there, I'm like, pinch me, like, how is this real? And like, it's the same facility that the men's team trained in. So over those first couple of days too was when Jordan Pickford signed his extension, which was insane to be there too. But the training, like, the pitch was the best grass pitch I've ever played on, hands down. I'm just trying to recount all the super substantial moments here.
Well, hey, we'll relive the glory.
Yeah,
that's not a problem with that. What were some of your big takeaways over the 2-month period or so?
Yeah.
About like your game, like what they tell you about your game, like what's the training environment like? What are the coaches like, and how is it different than from what you're used to?
I think the big thing that I took away was a confidence in myself, knowing that I was able to hold my own. But also, like, a big part of the game now for goalkeepers is being able to use your feet. And looking back on my training growing up, like, I played as a 9 and a winger up until I think I was 14. And that was when I really started to be a goalkeeper, 14, 15. So my training all the way up until then and through high school, I did all the technical sessions with my team. And I remember looking back on it, like, being annoyed that I was doing all this extra stuff and not like,
but it helps you long
exactly.
term, right?
I wasn't really understanding how beneficial it would be, because I pulled a Cruyff turn on one of the Everton girls and she slipped and sent everybody laughing. And like, it's one of those little things where, like, those skills you develop at a young age can actually be really beneficial. So yeah, I think, one, the confidence in myself, and also just knowing how hard or how important a good work ethic is, because that really goes a long way, I think, in making an impression on people. And then the last one is also what a positive attitude can do as well, because that was one of the big reasons why I kept being invited back as well. My positive attitude. Every time I would text the goalkeeper coach after training, I'd just say, "Thank you so much for having me out." And he said, "It's been great having you, whatever." I'm trying to remember the exact term he used, but he was like, "You're like a ray of sunshine" type thing. Awesome. And it's like, if you can have that impact on people,
Yeah.
that's never bad. Like, it's only a good thing.
A ray of sunshine, huh?
I try.
That's what we're gonna title this episode. Just a ray of sunshine.
Great.
That's it. Did you have any struggles while you were there?
100%. My time over there was for school. It wasn't
Right.
for football. A big thing that my university does is a third year exchange. So myself and all of my teammates that were in my year at Queen's were abroad. So one of my teammates was in Scotland, or two of them were in Scotland, another was in Australia. So we were all over the place, and I was on my own per se. I wasn't doing what a lot of the other people, the exchange students at the University of Liverpool, were doing. I wasn't going out every
Right.
night. I wasn't partying a ton. Like, I was
Right.
focused on my goal and like training well and like proving myself, which you have to obviously make sacrifices to do, which is okay. But I ended up being very lonely at times, I'd say. And also the 8-hour time difference from home, 5 hours from school. Um,
Oh yeah.
Managing that
Yeah.
was really difficult. So I think from the football side, um, making sure I had the confidence in myself, because in order to play at that, like train at that level, you need to believe in yourself. Because if you don't, then like you're vulnerable, and like a shot could go in, and if you let that affect you, like it then impacts the next shot and the next one. So trying to be confident and just saying like, shoot on me, like I dare you type mentality, like
Yeah.
really is what will help you perform at that level. But what I was battling at the same time was managing an academic schedule, as well as like just being a student abroad. Because all my friends,
Academics are so overrated. They just get in the way, huh?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, but that's, I mean, that's why, yeah, I can only imagine the 8 hour time
Yeah.
difference from friends and family back home can be hard. What's something that all the goalkeepers there that are on the first team that do you think they did really well? Like, what are they really, really good at? And what do you like? How close are you to being at their level? And like, so what are you now focusing on? Just seeing what they're so good at.
So one of the biggest lessons that their goalkeeper coach was pushing was being calm but being confident. And I think both of their goalkeepers, so Emily Ramsey and Courtney Brosnan, embody that. They're both extremely, like, I want to use the word tenacious. They work so hard, and they are very gritty in that sense. But they're also calm. So when you are receiving a shot or whatever, it's just like the calm hands absorb the power of the shot, because that's the other thing. They shoot the ball really freaking hard.
Yeah.
But being able to be calm in these heightened moments of adrenaline, I think, is the biggest thing that um, they really embody. And I think that's a big thing I need to continue to work on. I think when I was over there, I saw drastic change in the way I played, because I was always the energizer type of bunny that um, was like all over the place, like long limbs, throwing at a ball to hope to keep it out of
Yeah.
the net, just out of reaction, which can work, but it's not great to train for repetition. Like, you want to build those habits, and I think that's kind of what I took away, was those little habits, like getting your head around the ball first, like having your body follow, and yeah, just being calm and confident, I'd say, were the two big ones.
Yeah. How many more years are you at Queens for?
Technically, I have 3 more years of eligibility. I'm going into my 4th year of study. I was one of the kids that graduated in 2020, graduated high school. So going in, we didn't have a season in the fall of my first year. So I've played 2 seasons, and U Sports gives us 5 years of eligibility. So I'll use my 3rd this fall, and then I'm potentially going to come back for 1 more semester next year.
And then it's off to Everton.
Not quite, actually. One of the super cool opportunities that is coming up in Canada, they're starting a women's professional league, and they have it scheduled to start April 2025, which the timing could be impeccable if I do a fall season at Queen's next year and then graduate university in December. And then my goal, I think, right now is to try and play in that league when it starts April 2025.
For sure. Hey, we're all rooting for you.
Thank
Now,
you.
Kirsten, the last question, the most important question. What are your favorite set GK gloves?
Okay, I've used about 3 different pairs over the last couple months. I
Okay.
started with the Vaders. I was a big fan, but then I tried the all whites and I loved them. And now I'm using the Venoms, I think. Yeah, and
Okay.
I love them all. So I think that speaks
The black,
for,
what, the all black ones?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. There's some, at least we had some variety. Everyone's been saying the all whites. And I'm like, okay, I get it. They're
Hmm.
great, but it's like, let's get some variety, even though
Yeah,
those are my favorite too.
you
But
asked me at a good time because I've just tried a whole bunch of different ones.
oh,
So
it's good to hear. Good to hear. Well, we thank you for your time and best of luck to
thank
you.
you so much for having me on.